This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
Anybody want to go sailing out there? I think it's a dream of pretty much everybody I know, and some have actually done it, and others have just dreamt about it their entire life. Well, our next guest actually did it, and he does it for a living now. His name is Bobby White. His YouTube channel is Sailing Doodles, and we'll find out how he chose that name. And I'm just smitten by the channel. Got almost 400 subscribers, 160 million views. Could you imagine that? Almost 500 videos. And Bobby, you are like an all-star because you were a corporate pilot. For the guys out there and the ladies, everybody would love to do that. That's like the rock star of piloting. And then you transition. I know you had some health issues, and I'm glad you're doing better. You transitioned to sailing. Man, what a life. How are you this morning?
I'm great. It's afternoon here in Puerto Rico, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. You never know what the future holds. I had no inkling that I would be doing this right now. I'm pretty happy with the life I had.
I bet. Well, and one thing I love about your videos is you're thoughtful and you're fun. And yep, especially the guys out there, we see the attractive ladies that are your partners there on the sailing. But you're a respectful guy. I can tell you must have been a Boy Scout, and I say that because I don't see a lot of debauchery, and I think you have a big following as a result of that. You really, you talk about your family and your friends and the love for your pets, and you sure seem like a good person. And I like the fact that we have your type of content on YouTube. So that's my compliment right off the bat. I also like your question and answer videos. I think that's very special that you're willing to be transparent and open and talk about that. So let's get in real quick to how you started. I've watched a lot of your videos, but for the folks that have not, what happened from piloting into the transition of sailing, and maybe we can get into your first thoughts of where am I going to sail and on what? How am I going to get the vessel?
Sure, yeah. No, I was, like I said, I was a corporate pilot, and then I woke up one morning with about the worst headache you could possibly have, and it was similar to a stroke. It was a brain hemorrhage. And when that happens, you can't be a professional pilot, for at least 2 years. And I tried doing real estate for a little bit. I hated it, but I grew up reading books about people cruising. This was before the internet, right? Before you could watch videos on YouTube about it. So I was reading books about people that were adventuring around the world and sailing around the world. And I always dreamed about retiring early and doing it. And one day I just thought, you know what? I'm pretty miserable doing this job I don't like. I've got enough to go for maybe a year, I thought. And so I just bought a boat, $24,000. Probably cost less than most people's car. And brought my 2 dogs along, 2 Labradoodles. That's how I got the name Sailing Doodles. And talked a girlfriend of mine into coming along, and somehow started making videos about it. And somehow it took about the time I ran out of money. We were earning enough off the YouTube videos to keep going.
Wow. And I know you're a humble guy, but you're very intelligent. And I've watched you fix things, build things, troubleshoot, and you're obviously a good communicator. And then you're a techie. I can tell by your camera. Folks, if you want to watch something cool, do you think it's just Bobby sailing around? No, he's fixing things. He's showing how to cook, how to clean. He's showing the bad days when, I know you don't have them with you right now, I don't think, but when you had the Labradoodles on, and I just bought a couple lab puppies, so we joke off there on my show about them crapping all over the place in my house, and I kind of giggle with yours because you're like, one won't go. I can't remember if it was Maverick or Goose, and the other will, and then you showed the flotation devices and how you can get them on. You go through all of it. Then you've got, what I was going to say was, it's not just you motorboating around or sailing around, it's you with your drone. And so does that help? I'm going to get into something where you're going to have to brag about yourself. Does it help that you're smart and an intellect naturally, or could anybody do this stuff? Because my hunch is not anybody could do everything you're doing. So if someone's watching, not to suppress their dreams, but I mean, I don't want them to think they can just emulate you easily. You do have to have some fixing skills and some tech skills if you're sailing, correct?
Yeah, you do. I appreciate that. Thank you. But yes, a lot of it is, you need to be totally self-reliant out there, or be able to self-reliant for a limited amount of time. Because if something breaks on your boat, a lot of times you're in places where you can't get parts, or maybe you could get parts, but you need to have parts with you. You bring them on board. I mean, have them stored up. So you have to be prepared. And so go back to Boy Scouts. Yes, it was actually. That's kind of good. So you have to be prepared, and then you need to know how to fix things on your boat. So somewhat mechanically and technologically inclined to understand how the systems work and how you can repair them and all that. So yeah, you do have to be self-reliant, and that's probably one of the biggest barriers to entry of going cruising. Is there are people that maybe have the time or the money, but they just don't have the technical know-how to work on their boat. And that's what they say cruising is fixing your boat in exotic locations.
Yeah, and it's not that. And I think your videos are testament to the fact that you could have a lot of fun. But I remember the first one with Megan, a couple in, where she was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't like this weather," and you didn't like it, and it was your first soiree into that. And you were going in Gulf of Mexico, and you're like, "Hey, we're 60 miles out," and not to spoil it, but life is good. Then you're like, "Okay, life is not good. Try 15, 20 feet waves," and I was like, "Geez." My wife was like, "Hey, honey, we got to do this, we got to do that in the house." And I'm like, "Hold on, this is like an intense moment." I got kind of addicted to those videos. It's not all fun and games. The other thing is, even this interview with you, I have an ad agency, and one of my video guys will put together the video. My director, Cecil, who's a brilliant guy, and he'll put everything together, but it takes hours. I can't imagine how much time it takes you, Bobby, putting all these videos together. People might think it's just a blink of an eye, and it's not. How long does it take to put all this and edit and get it all ready for one video?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's what that's kind of the whole idea of making videos like that. You want to make it look easy and all that, but it is a lot harder than it looks, especially when I first started out, because I didn't know anything about video production or video editing. And so, a 1 15-minute video would take me maybe 15 hours to edit. And so, I was putting out a couple videos a week, and so it's a full-time job just doing the YouTube, and then you got to maintain the boat, and then you're actually out sailing and cruising around. So it's a lot of work. I've gotten a lot faster at the editing now. Now I can edit a video in 4 or 5 hours. But honestly, I hired an editor maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
A lot of the strain off.
I don't blame you. We're talking with Bobby White. He's a sailor. He's got a really growing and popular, I bet you it's populating organically, and even if you're not promoting new videos every single day, it's called Sailing Doodles, and we will put this in the podcast of the Tom Anderson Show, but also we'll make a YouTube video of it, and we're fledgling compared to him. We don't do it for the monetization on our side, we do it to promote our guests, and so we'll make a video, and you can check that out at Tom Anderson Show on YouTube. So, Bobby, of all the ladies you worked with, Megan is my favorite. She's very thoughtful and sweet, but I know all of them. There's Taylor, there's all these different gals that you've worked with. I know the $1 million question for the guys out there is how do you decide on that? And is it a relationship thing, or is it a friendship thing, or is it both? And does it depend? And are you bringing them on because you need help, or is it more for just companionship and to have a buddy there, or do they actually help? I know the answer, but I want the public who hasn't seen your videos to understand that. When they look at your beautiful, the screenshot of a YouTube channel, folks, you have to pick one shot. Well, go look. It's like, the Cosmopolitan cover on all of them. So you're going to think, what type of video is this? Well, it's fun, pretty women, but also the fun of sailing. And so how do you decide on your seamates there?
Well, it's a lot harder than you think. Some of them have been people that I've been dating, and some have just been friends or maybe professional type stuff. But it is a lot harder than you think to get people to go along with you to do this stuff. Somebody's like, wait a minute, you want me to come sail on your boat for 6 months around the Caribbean? I have a job, I have a car payment, I have all this stuff. How am I going to do that? And so a lot of people don't have because they get too tied down by debt or responsibilities that they can't do it. So it is hard to find people to come along with.
Yeah, no, I bet. Now, I watched a video the other day, and I apologize to the young man who filmed it on YouTube because I can't remember his name, but he went from California to Hawaii, and he did it alone. And he really was good with the video, not quite as good as your style, but it was good, and it was thoughtful. And have you ever thought of doing that alone, or do you really prefer, because Rick, our producer, said, I wonder if he does it more alone or are you on a personal level? I know you have the videos, but how does that work in terms of with partners or alone and the sailing aspect of it?
I have done some alone. It is a little bit more challenging. I mean, if you're just doing short trips, like going from 30, 40 miles, it's really not a big deal. But if you're going to do longer overnight trips, it's definitely better to have somebody. I mean, somebody that especially cross an ocean like that single-handed. I've known people that have done it. I've met them. But I mean, and I've done the longest sail I've done was from the Bahamas to Puerto Rico,
wow,
800 miles. And I did that solo, and it was miserable. I was so tired by the end. I swore I would never do a long.
I wouldn't enjoy it, bro. We're going to come right back. One more segment with Bobby White of Sailing Doodles right here on the Tom Anderson Show.
This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
Talking with Bobby White, Sailing Doodles, just under 160 million views. Now, Bobby, I know the headers, the headlines, and the photos have to help. When I see the Megan video jumping nude off of Willie, and you mean Willie the bar, the floating bar, over 4 million views, does that help? Does the headline and does the photo and the narrative help a little bit for attention versus like Bobby's thoughts on the weather?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, nobody wants to watch that video, right? But yeah, I mean, you can make the best video in the world, but if it has a boring thumbnail, a boring picture, or boring title, nobody's going to watch it. So, sex sells a little bit there. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was looking at, Thailand and Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius, season 4, episode 19, the history that you actually went through, and I really enjoyed that. It was an almost Nat Geo moment for Bobby White, where it wasn't just sailing. Are you flying to those locations and then getting on a boat, renting it, using it, or are you going across the ocean to do so? I'm assuming you're flying there and boarding there.
A little bit of both, actually. The one to Thailand, so I actually picked a boat up in Vancouver, Canada, went all the way down the west coast, down to Mexico, and then sailed it across the Pacific Ocean, through French Polynesia, all the way through Indonesia, all those places up into Thailand. So, some of that took almost a year to do that. But some of it, like the stuff in Pompeii and all that, we did fly over there. But so it's a little bit of both, and we, work with charter companies or sail our own boat.
And as you get bigger and your popularity grows with Patreon, how could someone support you? And you don't have to get into the numbers, but how is that support coming? Is that funding you? I've interviewed so many YouTube stars, for instance, in the slot world. Folks that go and the big jackpot who's gambling, $1,000 a spin. And he's like, hey, a lot of people are watching my videos, and that's actually how we generate some of our gambling money. In your case, is that helping you with supplies and with fuel and with costs? And then the Patreon, one is monetizing on YouTube. More people watch, more people look at the ads, the better for you. And then the other is the Patreon, which someone says, I like Bobby White. I like Sailing Doodles. I want to help that guy out, either one time or monthly. Do those both help fund your efforts?
Absolutely. The Patreon, basically, until you... I wasn't making enough to live on the ad revenue directly from YouTube itself for maybe 3 or 4 years. So when people start a YouTube channel, they're not making much money at all. I didn't even consider how much I was earning from YouTube itself. It was the Patreon that actually gave me the funding to keep going. Because you think about, I've got $20,000 worth of cameras, and then all the editing gear, and then cruising around. It does add up, and so I really appreciate our patrons for making that happen.
And I'll put that in the link of the YouTube and also on the podcast, folks. Donate to him and help him out. And if this is shared in his circle, same idea. That's the way. If you like what you're seeing, if you're going to go to a movie, if you're going to buy a movie, if you're going to pay for streaming, help out the folks that are actually doing it. These aren't big billionaire stars. They're people that are trying to make a living from this. So I like that. And I like the fact that people can do it kind of grassroots. So let's get into the obvious questions of what's your favorite place to sail and what's your favorite type of vessel? I know that you're switching over. You just mentioned to Rick on the break that seasons change, so it's not all sailing like on a sailboat. And I think you're in a Hatteras 52 motor yacht. That's the latest I saw with, I think it's called the Dark Side in Puerto Rico. What's your fave place to go and type of vessel?
Oh man, I mean, just for ease, I mean, like if somebody's considering doing it, the Bahamas is probably the easiest place to get to from the United States, and I really enjoyed it. The water is beautiful. There's like 700 islands. It's really great. Honestly, the Mediterranean, like the French and the Italian islands, are really cheap. I thought they were going to be very expensive, but they were cheap. And then, of course, I mean, like Southeast Asia, Thailand, all that, it's great. It's really cheap and really beautiful. As far as boats, yeah, so I'm going to a motor yacht now. This is my first foray into that. I thought maybe the viewers and the patrons would be maybe a little off-put by going from, sail to steam, basically, right? But they've actually been very supportive. As far as, like, sailboats, though, I think most people have an eye on a catamaran sailboat just because it's a little more stable in most conditions, and they're, a lot more space.
When you see, and I'm no sailing expert whatsoever, so I don't know the parlance or the wording and the terms, but I can at least push my way through. I've been on a catamaran many times in the Caribbean years ago, and it was fun and it was a blast, and the weather was not bad, and we were snorkeling or fishing or whatever. Didn't stay overnight, but went day trips, many a day trip. But I look at ocean seafaring, and I look at bad weather. Can a catamaran go across the ocean, or would it get wiped out? Maybe a dumb question, but or is the sailboat the right way to go for something like across the Pacific or the Atlantic? Is a catamaran more like for just trolling around, like you mentioned, in France or in Italy or, near the shore? Same with the Caribbean and Bahamian areas.
No, I mean, I've known plenty of people that have crossed oceans on catamarans, and it's all about planning and weather routing, and just don't go during storm season, and then be smart when you're sailing. The big difference is that if you flip over in a catamaran, it doesn't come back up, whereas if you flip over in a monohull, it will come back up. But, my advice would be just don't get in a situation where you're going to flip over. And it is actually a lot harder to flip over a cat than it is a monohull. It's just the consequences are worse if it does happen.
And then with regard to like when you fly to Europe, so I know that we have people, especially we're centric in Alaska here for this show, and there are folks that have many a boat. I know some listening right now. And two questions. One, when you go to Europe and let's say you say I'm going to take a sailboat, rent it out for a week, do they verify that you're capable of that? How do they research that? And then the second question is, are you ever going to come up to Alaska and check out this area?
Well, it really depends on the area that you're cruising in. The most places in the Caribbean at least want to see a sailing resume. They'll have you fill out a form, say, okay, I've sailed this kind of boat, I've got this experience, I've owned this. A lot of places in Europe and in Asia do actually require some kind of certificate where from like you can go to the ASA school and get a bareboat captain's. I don't know what they call it, but you can do that. I did mine over in Thailand actually. And then as far as Alaska, yes, I'd love to. I hear it's amazing and it's beautiful sailing up there. The closest I've been would be like the Bay of San Juan Fuca or something up there near Vancouver.
Yep.
But I hear it's beautiful up there. And I mean, I've actually been to Anchorage, but on an airplane.
Sure.
But yeah, I'd love to go up there. It's a long way to sail a boat up there just for a short summer season. I'm assuming they maybe have charter boats up there that you can do for a while. I don't know, but I'd love to.
Yeah, no, awesome. We're talking with Bobby White. Sailing Doodles is his YouTube channel. I encourage you to subscribe and donate and contribute to his Patreon. We got about 3 minutes left, Bobby. A couple other questions. Back to the ladies and how you choose and when you choose. So if you have a significant other on, I assume it's more fun just you and her. And if it's more of a business affair, then you bring on more. How does that work? And how many have you had on the vessel, or does it depend on the vessel over your 4, 5, 6 years of videos?
Sure, it depends on the vessel. I think the most we've had at any one time would be 4 of us. I've actually got a crew coming up now. There'll be 4 of us leaving Puerto Rico here in the next week. And it'll be me and Taylor's coming back for that, and then a couple other people that have been, Amanda, a few others that have been, or another one that's been on the boat before. So me and 3 girls heading to the Virgin Islands and having a good time for a while. But yeah, I mean, if I'm actually dating somebody, it is nice to just be 2. I actually kind of like to have 3 people. Number one, for the filming aspect, because when you're actually doing something on the boat that requires your attention to the boat and working on the boat, it's kind of hard to pick up a camera at the same time. So with 3 people, you can take care of the boat and film at the same time.
Have you ever had a lady?
Your average cruiser, 2.
2. And have you ever had one where she says, I can't do it, and you didn't film her? Or have you ever had a bad problem where it was like, okay, this isn't going to work, and I'm not even going to include you? Or have you had anybody leave and try to compete with you? I know Taylor has her own YouTube channel, I believe, but you guys are friends. How does that work in terms of camaraderie?
Sure. I mean, there's been a couple that invites come on and it's like, okay, this just isn't going to work, and I don't even bother putting that footage we did in the series. But in Taylor, I mean, I helped her get her. So I encourage people to look at her show too. It's Taylor's Travels, and she is 21 years old, and she's got a 38-foot Morgan that she's sailing around on her own. I helped her start her channel, with financially and mentoring and all that. She's done really well. She's got almost 150,000 subscribers already. I'm really proud of her.
Well, Bobby, I'm proud of you, my friend. You keep up the good work. Sailing Doodles is the YouTube channel, and we'll make a video, and I know Bobby will let me take some excerpts from his videos to put in the video promoting him. Go to Patreon, and folks, check it out, donate, and enjoy. There's almost 450 videos. So, Bobby, safe sailing, my friend, on your next journey, okay? We'll be watching.
Thanks, Tom.
Absolutely. Bobby White, right here on The Tom Anderson Show.